Thank you so much for joining our third Ask Me Anything, also known as an AMA. This is a great opportunity for you to meet donors, recipients, and just get your questions answered about organ donation. And I think what you're going to find is a lot of us, at least the group who has donated, are big fans of what we've done. And it turns out that 95% of donors, if given the opportunity to do it again, would absolutely say yes to that. And so I'm going to put someone on the spot who is not prepared for this, but she recently donated. And last time we talked, she hadn't donated yet. And I would really love it, Carrie, if you would unmute and just tell us a bit about your donation experience and also the special background you have. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Because this is my work laptop and I'm not sure if it works. I'm Carrie or Kari Rancourt. I am actually a living donor transplant coordinator from Hartford Hospital in Connecticut. And I met Elaine and most of the donors on this call back in November, I think it was, in Florida, where I was lucky to join them. And at that time, I revealed that I was actually in the process of being evaluated as a donor, and happy to have become a non-directed donor myself in January 25th of this year. So just a couple months ago. And as you can see, back at it like nothing ever happened, and happy to be in the One Kidney Club and also a living donor coordinator. It's just all kidneys all the time for me. So yeah.
Thank you, Carrie. It's so exciting, and absolutely welcome to the club. So we're going to just start out. So before I mentioned that, please write in the chat your name, location, current weather, email, and your connection to kidney donation. And obviously the email is optional, but if you want us to be able to get in touch with you, please include your email. So now I'd like to just take a couple minutes to talk about some frequently asked questions. And the first one I'm going to just put into the chat, and if someone wants to volunteer to answer it, how long do donor kidneys last?
More than 10 years?
More than 10 years? Hopefully, yeah. Do any of the donors on the call have an answer to that one?
I think the average right now for a living donor is around 15 years. I donated to my mom, and that kidney lasted for a little over 17 years.
17 years, okay.
Oh.
I personally know some people that are in the 30+ year zone already, though.
And Shannon, do you have something to add to that?
I'll switch with
No, okay. And what's the longest lasting kidney? And it's still going. Does anyone know how long that one has been going?
I'm gonna forget about this.
Is that 50 years?
Yeah, it's about 56 years. Yeah, 56 years and still going. So I think deceased donor kidneys are more in the 10 to 15 year range. And Warren is right. It's about 15 to 20 and sometimes far longer for living kidneys. The next one is more of a subjective question. And so what was the hardest part of donating? Does anyone here want to answer that question? Because that's just very individual. Thanks, Lisa.
The hardest part about donating was not being able to donate. I tried to donate for my husband and I was ruled out medically, and that was the hardest part of our journey. So I'll be quiet now because I know you want to hear from a real donor.
No, but Lisa, you're absolutely saying it in a very important way. You weren't able to donate, and yet you've helped to facilitate so many donations, right? So you become super activated as the leader of NKDO.
I didn't have a choice. It recharged me. It just made me take a different hat and find not one but two donors for my husband, and he's doing great. He's on here we're like 5.5 years now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Anyone else? Debbie, what was the hardest part for you for donating?
There wasn't one.
There
really wasn't.
Who got your kidney, Debbie?
My dad got my kidney. I had never been in the hospital before, other than an emergency room for like an ankle or something. So I had no idea what to expect. So for me, really, it was the surprise
Yeah, right.
of the recovery from surgery. But really, there was no hard part. Just knowing that someone received literally the gift of re-life made any pain that I had just minimal, nothing.
Oh, that's so good. Do we have one more donor who can tell us about the hardest part of donating? Thank you to Debbie and Lisa. Ross, go ahead.
Like,
I was very nervous because I'm kind of a medical wuss.
Me too.
So I just told him, they wanted to tell me a lot of the details, and I'm like, no, don't tell me the details, just do it. And then there was a little bit of pain for 1 or 2 days. Like one day, like there was a lot of pain right up here in the collarbone area from, I think, air that was in the body, but that was it. I was back home within a couple of days.
Excellent, excellent. Please mute yourselves if you're not speaking, just because there's a bit of extra noise going on. Mark Scotch is on the line. Mark.
Just wrote my comment actually, but basically being a living donor isn't really totally in our control, as Lisa well knows. But everybody can be evaluated. And that's what I try to talk about when I'm talking about kidney donation, is that everybody can at least go get evaluated. And you never know what you'll find.
Absolutely. And Denise?
I would definitely say the waiting to be tested, waiting to hear the test results, waiting to be approved, just the waiting. I started the process on February 23rd of 2021, and I was ready to donate like that week. I was so excited and so ready. I was hoping it would be in March. It ended up being April 21st, which is an amazingly short amount of time, I think 8 weeks. It just seemed like forever. And I was like super, super excited. So yeah, I just think the waiting from one test to the other. So, but other than that, it was like absolutely perfect. It was just exciting, the whole journey.
Beautiful. Thank you. Warren?
For me, it was logistics. I was in the Army when I donated. I had 18 years in the Army, and I was in a unit that was getting ready to deploy to the Middle East. So because I was Army property, I had to get special permission from the Surgeon General of the Army and then work out the other part of it. And then I donated out of state, so there was some traveling involved. So it was a logistics thing, but 8 months after I donated, I met my unit back in Iraq. So it worked.
At what center did you donate, Warren?
Mayo Clinic in Rochester.
Fantastic. And we've got one last frequently asked question, and that is, does the kidney start working right away? Who can answer that question? Maybe Carrie's a good one, since you're a kidney transplant coordinator. You're very well informed.
Does the kidney usually start working right away? Yes, typically. Sometimes when we're talking about paired exchanges, when we're exchanging kidneys across the country, there's a little bit of extended time on ice, or what we call the cold ischemic time. So that may increase the rates of delay in graft function, but typically not. And even with delay in graft function, the most important thing to keep in mind is when these kidneys do start working, they work just fine. So it's not that big of a deal. And the Kidney Registry has done a lot of studies on this, and really we're looking at like 17 hours on ice before that becomes like a major concern. And they almost never get to that level unless there's like an issue going on. So yes, living donor kidneys typically work right away. It's a very controlled situation.
Excellent, excellent. So now we're going to move into breakout rooms so that you can.
I do think,
oh,
Elaine,
yeah, Terry?
a great question that I think everyone would love to hear an answer to is Lori ask a question in the chat, maybe before breakout. Is it
Oh,
better
sure.
Is it better to donate at the same location as your recipient?
Well, that's an excellent
And we
question.
actually have two donor coordinators on. Kari is on, and Jared Franz is a donor coordinator at Intermountain. He's also on. It'd be interesting to have their perspective from the medical side. I mean, I think all of us donors have opinions about that as well. But Jared, do you have any response to that question?
I don't know that it's better to donate at the same location. With the NKR and everything that was been done as far as being able to work kidney pair donation, as Kari mentioned, it may slow things down a little bit, but overall it's very similar to walking it from the one OR room to the next. So I don't know if it's better. There are some people that would say maybe that it is, because then they both recover, and as far as from the surgical team and the nephrology team, we may all like it to be as controlled as that, and have as much control over both situations as we can. But it doesn't. I don't know that it makes it better. Kari, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would add pretty much whatever makes it work for the donor is what makes it better. So if travel is a barrier, then being able to do a remote donation or an exchange will make it better. And sometimes people prefer the exchange program for like the pool that they can be matched in. But really for me, it's kind of whatever will help get that person to the donation that they want to do will make it better for them. So every pair is different, every donor is different, every recipient's different, and there could be risks and benefits to any pathway. And so whatever makes it work, makes it work.
Thank you both. Share some more. What questions came up? Possibly questions that would be interesting for the entire group. Anyone want to go first?
We had a situation in our room. We have a donor, or I'm sorry, we have a recipient candidate who's running a very active campaign to find a living kidney donor. For those donors who are on the line who donated through the NKR, the question was asked. I did not donate through the NKR. I've done a couple of test applications, but he asked, if you don't finish your application, does the NKR remind you to finish your application? So can any of you who've donated relatively recently?
Terry,
I mean,
we have Mike on the line now. Mike Lalo.
Is he? I thought I saw him, but then I can't find him.
Yeah.
He's here.
He's here.
Is he still?
Oh, I'm here. Sorry, my son was asking me a question. What I missed? I missed the question.
I'm still trying to find you, but anyway, the question was: we have there he is, a recipient on the phone who are on the meeting, who said that if a candidate does not finish their application, are they reminded about it by the NKR?
Oh my goodness, are you
Yes.
reminded? Yes, we will send you emails until you tell us to stop sending you emails. So I think it's I can't remember the frequency, but it's at least a monthly basis, if not, I think it might be weekly. Believe it, if it's the registration process, I believe it actually is weekly. Of course you can opt out of that, at any time. But one thing we do is send a lot of emails. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Before we field other questions, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Terry. I want to get a photo. So let's just do a quick vegan cheese. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you. Okay, other questions that came up that you think might be interesting for the whole group?
We had oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. Sorry, nice, kind man. I'm Debbie. I'm coming in late, and I'm a West Coaster, so a little tardy here. I wanted to just check and ask you, once you do the surgery and then you have your recovery time, how many times during that 4 to 6 weeks do you have to revisit the doctor?
I can tell you my experience, and I think this is fairly common. There's usually a post-op visit 7 to 10 days after surgery. Then for me, I had a 3-month, 6-month, 12-month, 2-year. Now, I have heard some people, centers will say they jump from their post-op visit straight to a 6-month visit. I was at a center that I had an interim 3-month visit in there as well. But you'll have one fairly quickly after. This transplant centers are required to monitor your kidney health for 2 years. So they don't really dictate the cadence of what that looks like or how often that is, but they do need to monitor some things about your kidney health. So that.
And every center is different. So
Right.
Cornell I donated at Cornell. It was very similar to Terry's. It was 2 weeks. You must be present in the hospital for 2 weeks. Then it was a full month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and then 2 years. But I didn't have to go back. They emailed me a lab orders, and I just took them to my local Quest, and then they would follow up when they got the results with a phone call, and they would, ask a bunch of questions on the phone. But every center is like slightly different.
Okay. All right. So typically 7 days after the surgery, and then maybe not for a month after that.
Probably at least, yeah.
Okay.
3 to 6 months after that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, do you have a question?
Yes, kind of related to, the follow-up. I was reading that it sounds like a lot of the donations now are, I guess, what is it, nephrectomy, is that the term for it, are laparoscopic. And then I know that even they're starting to do robotic nephrectomies, but how, when will you know whether they're able to do it laparoscopically or whether they have to take it the more invasive way?
Is Kari or Jared still on? Because I think they might attest to open nephrectomies very, very rarely happen.
So
Yes.
There's Kari, there's Jared. They're right beside each other on my screen. 2 for 2.
Yeah, so my center does primarily hand-assisted laparoscopic. So we have, 2 or 3 very small incisions, and then one about this big, that's about the size of mine, just for them to get their hand in. Some centers will do entirely laparoscopic, and as you mentioned, some will do robotic. And you should know pretty early on, like, what that center's technique is, and you can always ask your coordinator what they typically prefer, what their surgeons are comfortable with. But as far as like an actual open nephrectomy, that is basically almost never done anymore unless it's like an emergency situation. So it's always pretty much going to be some form of laparoscopic, and some of these cowboys are doing, some really, really cool stuff with the entirely laparoscopic or robotic things. But for the most part, most centers are hand-assisted laparoscopic or laparoscopic.
I will note that you will have to sign a document that says, like mine was a single incision laparoscopic, and I read everything that I signed, and it said something about I had to initial approving them to do the old school method. And I said, oh, no. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, you guys told me it was laparoscopic. I said, so if, I don't want that one. And they said, you basically don't have a choice. It's not like we stop the procedure in the middle and say, oh, it's if God forbid something was to happen, you're giving them permission in advance to do that, right, Kari? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so our philosophy at Hartford is we will convert to open if there's a true actual emergency. So the donor safety is the #1 priority. And so if we're converting to open, we're not actually taking out your kidney at that point. We're just saving whatever's going on. But knock on wood, since the time I've been there, we've never had to convert to open. And so we do consent every single donor that we start as laparoscopic. But if we need to, if it's an emergency, your safety is our #1 priority. And we will make that big giant incision to make sure that you are safe.
How long does the surgery last? Generally.
I was asleep. I don't know. I really don't know.
I always say it's about 2 to 3 hours for the donor. For the donor's family, it's about 5 to 6 hours, because there's a lot more that happens on the front end and back end of things. But in general, the actual incision to closing is about 2 or 3 hours, really.
I was an hour and 45 minutes, Kari. That was
Well,
Dr.
you are an
Watkins.
overachiever, Michael, and we
I'm
can't
just
all be
saying.
you.
I was asleep though, but it was an hour and 45 minutes.
It's like
Thank you.
Susie.
Susie. You're
My
on
guess is,
mute.
my guess
Yes.
is what they told you to feel good.
So I just have a question about the recovery because I do work full time, which I do have sick leave, which I plan on using if I need it. So as far as the recovery, I have just an office job that I have to go in and, you know, sit at a desk. How long would it be that I would be out of work? Does anybody have a guess? If everything goes perfectly?
I've heard 4 to 6 weeks.
Totally out of work.
Maybe
Well, no, in my case, I was working from my hospital bed on the day of surgery and walking the hospital floor. So if you can work from home, you can work on the first day, though. That's a little bit much. I was back at the office after 2 weeks. I think that's more
Okay.
typical for people who don't have to lift.
Yeah, I started a new job 3 weeks after, just over 3 weeks after surgery, but it was a desk job, but it was back in the old days when you had to go to your desk every day, pre-pandemic. And I always took it as a win that I didn't fall asleep at my desk and I could zip up regular pants by 3 weeks out. So, yeah, I think I mean, I had a friend who was super bored and by 2 weeks she was working at home again. She's like, I didn't have anything else to do. I was fine. So
I think
I can
I
remote
think
in, so I think I could do that for a while.
the
Well,
big thing
and
is the lifting.
Well,
You
but
can't
the
like, you
other,
know,
the other
yeah, you
thing is
can't.
that there is a significant amount of fatigue. So when you're recovering, like you can sometimes feel like you are perfectly fine, and then come 1 o'clock, you hit a wall and you could fall asleep standing up. And so most kidney donors that I know tend to be really perfectionist, high achiever, hard on themselves kind of people, and will not be kind to themselves when they hit that wall and are not performing at the same level that they were for a little while. And so I always urge people caution when trying to go back to work super quickly. Like work will be there and you'll get back to it. It's going to be waiting for you. But I was out a full 6 weeks. And I'm lucky that my employer covers me 100% for a full 6 weeks, but I was out that whole time and I thought for sure I'd be like the Elaines of the world, working from my hospital bed. I tried, they wouldn't let me, but so everybody recovers a little bit differently.
I try to tell people typically, if you want to go back to work after a week or two, try to go back half the time. See how you feel and kind of ease back into it.
This all reminds me of something I saw on the internet, which was a European will write, sorry, I'm out of the office for a month. I'll email you when I return. I'm on vacation. And an American will write, I'm in the middle of kidney surgery. I will email you when I get out. And that was me. Josiah.
Yeah, so we had a question in my group about how our families responded. I'm a donor, and I really looked over that as, you know, they're going to be fine, and they weren't all fine with it. So if anyone wants to talk about their experience or any recommendations on how to talk to their family, I know I invited one of my mentees to this tonight because, you know, his family was questioning whether or not he should do this. So just put that topic out there.
I think in a lighthearted way, at the time, my oldest son would have been 26 or 27 in graduate school. And I remember he came home and I explained I was going to do this. And his reaction was, you can donate a kidney to someone and live? I mean, and he said, as soon as he said it, he realized how ridiculous that sounded, that, you know, mom's not going to phone it in for a stranger. But I mean, even, you know, there is that I think there's kind of a two-step process in that you can do it, and then is it safe, right? And I think, you know, in my case, I was very lucky. I was surrounded by a very supportive family who trusted the research I had done, because I tend to over-research things. So I was able to kind of hit those questions, but it's still, you know, it is full of emotion. It most certainly is. Denise? Oh, you're on mute.
I think it's important to address their concerns as to why are you apprehensive about my donating? What are you concerned about? You know, what worries you? And one of my relatives was concerned that I couldn't donate to my own children. Well, my children, I couldn't donate to them. They're O blood. They're O type blood, and I'm A. So I couldn't donate to them anyway. So I think the first thing to do when, you know, someone is hesitant about, you know, you're donating is like, just ask them, what are you concerned about? You know, why are you like having these feelings about my donating? And research too. I went on every video, I looked at every video I could and learned as much as I could about donating. So education is everything, really.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes left. I'm going to put a couple of links into the chat just for your information. We have 2 really good sources for protection and reimbursement. The National Kidney Registry offers an incredible package of reimbursement, so it can be a cost-neutral experience for you as you donate and other things with vouchers and so on. So Donor Shield link is there, as well as the National Living Donor Assistance Center for lower income donors is a great way to possibly get some of the money that you put out for donation back. And the last one is Donor Diaries. Lori Lee's podcast is really amazing. I think we have time for one more question. Greer?
Hi, I'm Greer's mother, Donna, and Greer is right here. He is hopefully going to be a recipient at some point sooner than later. My question is, how many of you all who have donated did it strictly through altruism and didn't have anybody in specific that you were looking to donate for? Are there any of you who have done that?
That's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. I just want to mention that joining the National Kidney Donation Organization is free. The link is in the chat, and it really is a way for us to strengthen our voice. So please, if you have not already, join the National Kidney Donation Organization. We're going to have another Ask Me Anything in about 3 months. So we'll be publicizing that, as well as I just want to wish Mark Scotch a wonderful liver donation. He's donating on Thursday, and it happens to be my birthday, so it's a very auspicious day. We're really excited for you, Mark, and you'll be joining the ranks of Lynn. I think Lynn is on the call, another double donor, liver kidney. And I hope that you had a chance to get your questions answered. The team of mentors in the National Kidney Donation Organization is also happy to help answer your questions. So that's another benefit to joining NKDO. And I'm just very happy that we had such a good crowd tonight. It seems like people are signing on now to join the call. So I'll stay on for a few more minutes, but I just want to thank you for coming. We had a wonderful representation of transplant coordinators and donors and recipients and potential recipients and donors. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. And we'll see you again in 3 months. But in the meantime, don't be a stranger. Get in touch with the NKDO when questions arise. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you.